This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. COVID-19 vaccination policy coming for public sector workers. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has announced that a COVID-19 vaccination policy is to be implemented for public sector workers. Speaking on Tuesday afternoon in the House of Representatives, Mr. Holness said the policy is part of measures being implemented to stave off a disruption of the public sector as the country continues to grapple with the effects of the pandemic. Mr. Holness disclosed that public sector employees will be required to get vaccinated or get tested.
The government of Jamaica will be taking steps to ensure that we can secure and guarantee the continued operation and provision of government services. We have indicated long ago that we will put in place measures for testing and for requiring vaccination for public sector workers. Madam Speaker, the country must move on. We must move on with our lives. We must get our economy back on track. We cannot allow ourselves to be defeated by the pandemic. As of 10 a.m. today, we had administered 1,241,816 doses of vaccines, 646,536 first doses, 506,951 second doses, 77,403 doses of the Johnson & Johnson single-dose vaccine, and 10,912 third doses or booster doses. We now have approximately 21% of the population fully vaccinated and approximately 26% of the population who have received at least one dose of the vaccine.
Free COVID-19 testing in schools, says Golding. Opposition leader Mark Golding wants schools to have more access to free COVID-19 testing in the wake of the resumption of face-to-face classes. Mr. Golding, who was speaking in the House of Representatives on Tuesday, said the test would be important in helping parents to know whether their children have been infected with the virus.
It is important to know whether or not you or your child has been infected by the virus. And my concern is for children going back to school, and there's not been a kind of school-wide access to free testing for children. And this is something I would ask that the government look at. Tests are available now at relatively low cost. I know some have been distributed and so on, but speaking for myself and our spokesperson for health, I'm sure can elaborate on this further, but I'm concerned that the access to testing is not as comprehensive as is desirable, given that we are trying to resume face-to-face classes and we are in the middle of a very serious spike.
Pre-primary, primary, and secondary level institutions resumed in-person teaching last Monday. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton announced last Thursday that COVID-19 self-test kits will be distributed to schools. Cops are still searching for Combo Boss. The police have been trying without success to serve a summons on Shanice Combo Boss Wilson, but the alleged sex party promoter has changed address. Head of the St. Catherine South Police, Senior Superintendent Christopher Ellis told the news that the summons was prepared a month ago, but Wilson cannot be located. She has moved from where she used to live, so we are not able to serve her with the summons, Superintendent Ellis said, but we are still looking for her. The police have been trying to track down Wilson in the wake of an illegal party at a nightclub on the infamous back road in Portmore, St. Catherine on December 5 last year. On that day, Wilson was preparing for her party when the police came, took her to the Greater Portmore Police Station, and cautioned her against hosting the event. The party would be in contravention of the Disaster Risk Management Act. Wilson, despite the warning, allegedly ignored the caution and went ahead with her party, albeit at a different location. After the event, Wilson made a video thanking her fans for their support. Kingston Central Police interview released persons of interest. Several men who turned themselves in after being named as a person of interest by the Kingston Central Police have been released without a charge. Last week, Wednesday, the police listed 10 men who they believed could assist with their investigations into various incidents in the division. Head of the division, Superintendent Beresford Williams, told the news that more than half of these men turned up. They were interviewed and subsequently released, Superintendent Williams said. Ongoing gang war in the division has led to the killing of several people, including children. The bloody feud on Sunday forced Prime Minister Andrew Holness to declare a zone of special operations in the division. The boundaries of the ZOSO, which is expected to last for 60 days, are as follows. North, beginning at the intersection of East Street and East Queen Street. The boundary extends in an easterly direction along East Queen Street and the intersection of North-South Camp Road. East, the boundary then extends southerly along North-South Camp Road at the intersection with Harbor Street. South, continuing from the intersection with Harbor Street, the boundary extends westerly along Harbor Street to the intersection of East Queen Street. West, the boundary then extends in a northerly direction along East Street and terminates at the intersection with East Queen Street. $25.8 billion added to budget, said Finance Ministry. The Finance Ministry has tacked on an additional $25.8 billion to the 2021-2022 budget. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark tabled the second supplementary estimates of expenditure in the House of Representatives on Tuesday afternoon. Dr. Clark said the adjustments were necessary to account for the recently concluded wage agreements with public sector bargaining units, expenditure related to the CARE program, the Christmas work program, and the premium of the catastrophe bond. He said the government now proposes to spend $893 billion in total this fiscal year.
The $25.8 billion in additional expenditure is comprised of $8.2 billion for non-debt recurring expenditure and $17.6 billion for debt service, of which $12.6 billion represents principal repayment, i.e. the amortization of debt, and a large chunk of that has to do with debt owing by the National Water Commission, which is guaranteed by the government of Jamaica, which came due in December, and the government has paid off that liability, and by doing so has reduced the debt stock to that amount, in that amount. The additional expenditure will be financed through $11.2 billion in additional revenue flows, $5.3 billion in additional loan receipts, and utilization of an additional $9.2 billion from prior year cash resources, and that primarily went to the repayment of the NWC obligation that became due.
Education Ministry under fire as report cites millions at risk in accountability breakdown. Auditor General Pamela Monroe Ellis has issued a stern warning to the Ministry of Education, declaring that it runs the risk of falling victim to fraud, unauthorized withdrawals, and significant bank errors because of its failure to prepare its bank reconciliation statements in a timely manner. The Auditor General contended that 7 years of outstanding appropriation accounts revealed a systematic breakdown in accountability, heightening the risk of breaches of the Financial Administration and Audit Act and the regulations governing the management and the use of budgetary resources. She pointed out that this risk had materialized in the audit of the appropriation accounts for 2019-2020. We found evidence of several instances in which Ministry of Education breached the Financial Administration Audit Act instructions, the report said. In recent times, the Education Ministry has been dogged by controversies, starting with the Caribbean Maritime University scandal, the Nutrition Products Limited connected party fiasco, and the unaccounted for $124 million paid to the Jamaica Committee on Tertiary Education. In an alarming revelation, the Auditor General divulged that the ministry has failed to present its appropriation account for the 7-year period 2012 to 2013 to 2018 to 2019. The approved budgetary allocations for the ministry over that period accounted to $642.6 billion. The appropriation accounts for 2019 to 2020, however, have been completed. In her 2021 annual report that was tabled in Parliament on Tuesday, Monroe Ellis said an audit of the accounting records and the financial transactions of the Education Ministry uncovered a regulatory breach in the preparation of the appropriation accounts. The ministry's failure to submit the appropriation accounts prevented the independent assessment by the Auditor General. She argued that Parliament, through the Auditor General's report on the appropriation accounts of the ministry, has been denied the opportunity to access the ministry's stewardship over the use of public resources. The Auditor General explained that bank reconciliation is one of the most important components of an effective system of internal control and is necessary in preventing and detecting fraud. It was reported that the Education Ministry did not reconcile the bank accounts for teachers' salaries, general salary, and deposit accounts over the period 2012 to 2013 to 2020 to 2021. Monroe Ellis divulged that the absence of monthly reconciliation would have also exposed the ministry to irregularities as demonstrated by the $30 million fraud that occurred on teachers' salary bank accounts between June 2017 and August 2018. Despite a request, the Auditor General said that the Education Ministry has not provided a full list of the bank accounts it maintained for the financial year 2019 to 2020. The ministry submitted a list of only 6 bank accounts and presented the related bank reconciliation statement. Of note, these bank reconciliation statements were prepared, reviewed, and signed off on the same date, July 13, 2021, during the period of the audit, the Auditor General highlighted. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.